Welcome to Type C Tech Reviews. Today we're going to be unboxing the KTC M27P20P. If at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same monitor, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's get this unboxed. Now, this thing comes in at, currently at the time of filming, I think it's $100 off pretty consistently though, at about 600 bucks. And for that price, well, this brings it in terms of specs. We'll see if it actually lives up to that. Now, right here in the box, good thing, we get a color calibration report, 2 different sheets, gamma curves. We get measurement results from the Adobe RGB, DCI-P3, and the sRGB color gamut with the Delta E averages. Very impressive, honestly. That's really cool. The packaging also looks great, not like an off-brand, which is really impressive. I think we've done a few KTC things before. Now, this is the top half of the stand. It's a huge back. It's definitely a lock-in stand, but look at how big that back is. Now, overall, it's pretty light, but feels well put together. We have some cable management with that pink colorway, which I honestly don't hate. Looks like it's gonna have height, tilt, and looks like it's gonna have full rotation. Maybe it'll have swivel, we'll see. Also in the box, we have how to unbox it. Then we've got the power cable, or 1/2 of that power cable. Overall, a fairly small brick, but quite heavy. All right, but let's get to this box in here. Kind of a premium way of packaging this, I like it. So in here, we've got a bunch of cables. This is the other side of that power cable. So this plugs in right here like that. Then we've got a display USB Type-C, a DisplayPort cable, and an HDMI 2.1 cable. Also in this back, we've got some standoffs, probably for like VESA mounting. And then we've got some warranty cards and paperwork. Now, a cool way of packaging this is they have the bottom of the stand at the bottom of that box, which is right in line with this. A lot of monitor companies have very like not matching tops and bottoms. That's actually very common. But this one is same plastic, same everything. It does obviously have swivel, which is nice. Metal there. You can see metal all on the bottom, good amounts of rubber, high quality thumb screw. Yeah, overall, nothing groundbreaking, but at this price point, we care about the panel. You line those up and then just screw it in. It's actually a very nice thumb screw. Stand overall is not too heavy, but it does feel well made. All right, with that in, yeah, pretty good, attractive. And I do like it when it's flat bottom like that because you can still set your phone, things like maybe a watch or pens or whatever on the stand itself, so it helps with desk space. With that, let's get to the panel. That's what we all care about. So this is a 27-inch panel. The package just looks like we might have to rip it. All right, so there's the back. We're gonna take this, line it up, and then I think that's locked in. Very odd lock-in stand. I hope it's locked in. A very odd lock-in stand, I will say that. All right away, it's actually not that heavy. We do have this over the screen. That's actually like a sticker on the screen. That's quite interesting. We can get a glimpse of the matte finish already. Looks pretty standard, but we're really gonna tell when the screen is on. Pretty good packaging though to have that over the screen. So far, I'm impressed, but really what's gonna be the impressive part is how well this actually performs. Is it actually 98% of the DCI-P3 color gamut? Is it actually reaching that 1000 nits of peak brightness in HDR? Those are big stats. I'm excited for this one. 576 local dimming zones, I believe. Before we get it up on the desk, do an initial impressions, gaming test, and a ghosting test, let's see how the stand does. And checking out, we've got a little bit of RGB there and a great amount of ports. We've got USBs, we got Type-C, we got DisplayPort, HDMI 2.1. All right, stand. Wow, a good amount of height there. That's really good. Good amount of tilt. We've got full, oh my gosh, we got a lot of swivel. Yeah, that is a good amount of swivel. That is quite impressive. And then we've got full rotation going completely sideways. Does it go both ways? And it does. This stand is very smooth. Not what I expected from like more of a knockoff brand. Impressive. With that, we're gonna get it on the desk, do an initial impressions, gaming test, and then we're gonna do a ghosting test. All right guys, with it on the desk, let's get it turned on. This uses a single joystick that is kind of underneath, I think, but you can access it both ways. Oh, first of all, that is a very vibrant logo. Guys, I'm excited for this one. This one's gonna be cool, I hope. All right, immediately up, let's check if it's in its 4K. We're gonna go on NVIDIA control panel. Initially, it looks a little bit too cool. It is running at 3840 by 2160, full 4K, and it's running at 144 Hertz, but we're gonna change that to 160, see if this thing can output 10 bits of color, and it can, as I expected it to. These are all good signs. Initially, doesn't look too crazy because I don't think the brightness is turned quite up and the white balance does seem to be a little bit too cool. So let's go into the menu system here. Menu system is not bad here. I think we've seen some menu systems from KTC before. This is gonna be exactly the same as like Cooler Master monitors, I believe. We're gonna turn the brightness all the way up and that gets substantially brighter. contrast 50, we have our black equalizer, we have our different presets, a very easy menu system. It's not pretty by any means, but so far it's just very easy because of the joystick. You guys know I like just one joystick. There's not a whole lot of color variance, not a massive amount of color variance like you see in a lot of monitors between the different modes, which may not be a bad thing. You have sharpness, professional modes, which is cool there. So you can you can lock out your color gamut, sRGB, Adobe RGB, and DCI-P3. We're gonna test all of the color accuracy in the full review. So subscribe below if you want that. You can also see HDR, FreeSync, and G-Sync there. So those are not enabled. We have our color temperature, which is in normal. If we go to cool, it makes it even cooler, warm, and then user. We have our gamma adjustment, which is really nice. We're just gonna leave everything stock for now. We have hue, saturation. Going into the gaming, we have the FreeSync G-Sync, which we are gonna turn that on. All right, so we have that on. We have our overdrive settings, which again, we'll be testing after the gaming. We've got advanced settings like HDR, which is on auto. We have the RGB, which is on breathing back there. We have red, green, and blue, and that's actually the only settings that it seems like we have. Also, an interesting thing here is local dimming is grayed out, which is weird. It looks like we also have a KVM switch, which is super nice to have. We have DSC. Can we not run local dimming if we're in 160 Hertz? Is that what it is? We're gonna check that. All right, so we're gonna switch this to 144 Hertz. Let's go back into the menu system. Now, local dimming is still off. That's very interesting. Maybe HDR has to be on. Now guys, the clarity here is great, obviously. It's like a 160 PPI or something like that. Really, really good. No visible pixelation. It's 4K at a 27-inch monitor. It's what we expect. All right, so we're in HDR. Full screen brightness just from the desktop is nothing crazy so far, but obviously we're not in HDR optimized content. Still, local dimming is off. That is so interesting. Can variable refresh rate not be on to have local dimming on? Is that it? Okay, and there we go. So if you have your variable refresh rate on your FreeSync G-Sync, you're not gonna have the local dimming on. So there's auto, standard, and high. We're just gonna set this in high all of a sudden. Let's try standard, auto, okay. We're just gonna leave it in high. That's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna change that in game. Let's leave it in SDR. We'll switch to HDR during gameplay. All right guys, jumping right in game. First thing you notice with local dimming in high, I don't think it does a very good job. I mean, this is pretty bright here. This is so dark. It's just black. It's definitely not right. It's very cool to have that be so dark, especially on an IPS-based panel. We're gonna set the local dimming not to high because I don't think that's the best standard. We're gonna set it to auto. Auto seems like it doesn't make it dark enough. Standard looks like it's the best all of a sudden. Really bright right here, but basically black right there, which is actually what the game is. So yeah, that's super, super cool. Still, overall, the overall screen brightness is not as high as I would expect it to. Seems like that local dimming is not quite perfectly tuned in, but I will say like those bright areas are very, very bright, obviously because of the local dimming. Colors also look really good here. The greens are vibrant, not quite as vibrant as I would expect, but I think that might be the local dimming messing with it, obviously because vibrancy is affected by brightness as well as color. Definitely a pretty panel, and for this price point, seems like it's pretty good, although the tuning is probably not quite as good as something like Samsung, especially on their Neo G8, still one of my favorite monitors. That thing is awesome. But see, the brightness there is just very, very blindingly bright. Let's put it in HDR, see how this does. All right, in HDR, there's so much going on right now. The colors are not as vibrant as I think that they should be in HDR, so that's about tuning, but still a very pretty panel. Not as bright as you would expect though with those specs, but let's try changing the local dimming around, which obviously the local dimming is why you're buying this monitor. Let's set that in high. Doesn't make a massive difference. We're gonna leave it in auto. Yeah, it definitely does a lot for the overall contrast ratio. And the one really, really good thing that I am noticing is I'm not noticing any of those dimming zones themselves. So it does seem to be pretty good at smoothing them out. But when they do say 600 nits in SDR, I do feel like the image should be a little bit brighter. Although honestly, it might just be messing with me because I've been using OLEDs, glossy finishes. See, when really bright sections like that going off are very, very bright. It's a very well dynamic image. Areas right here are very bright. So I do like that a lot, but it's still, I do think the saturation overall could be a little bit better. Oh yeah, this is definitely a fun monitor, but still, I do feel like the colors should be a little bit more vibrant. Yeah, okay, so going back out of HDR, I mean, just a beautiful panel. In HDR, the tuning is just not that good, honestly. We're gonna mess around with some settings, but you know, a lot of people would want to get this for HDR. It's just not the best way to use this monitor, at least out of the box, right? We're not done testing this by any stretch of the imagination, but the colors, the way it pops, even that local dimming, because it's so much brighter of an image overall, the overall screen brightness is significantly more. Yeah, a beautiful panel in SDR. And it does also seem like the auto of the local dimming is better. Even just on the map, the reds and the greens pop really, really nicely. I would believe that this is, you know, definitely in the high 90s with the color gamut. Whereas in HDR, it's just, you know, it's supposed to take full advantage of it, but it's just not for some reason. I don't know if that's settings or that's just overall HDR tuning. A lot of times HDR tuning is where, you know, these companies kind of fall short, and it seems like this may be the same thing here. Overall though, I know it sounds like I'm being really picky, and that's because there's a lot going on with this monitor, and you do want to be picky with something like this, but so far I'm impressed. For 600 bucks, that contrast ratio with an IPS panel, which means no risk of burn-in, so you could have something like this for 10 plus years where you just can't with an OLED. That's really cool. $600 price point, 4K, a lot of things. Like, I was looking at everything else in the market, and this is really the cheapest, and nothing's even close to this with anything near its specs. It's impressive. With that, let's do a ghosting test. All right, right away, haven't changed any settings. This is really impressive. This is like basically crystal clear. I mean, there's like a zero trail. There's zero overshoot, and there's basically zero trail. That is extremely impressive, actually. Most IPS panels have very low ghosting, but this is really quite good. Let's set the overdrive to off and let's see what that does. Adds a little tiny trail. Setting it to low makes it even better. Basically crystal clear there. I'm assuming that middle, because of just how it's tuned, is gonna cause overshoot, and it does. It causes some overshoot. And then we're going to high. We know it's gonna cause more overshoot, and it causes even more. So low is like perfect. And guys, like that's like absolutely crystal clear. For an IPS panel, you put this next to an OLED, they're not gonna look that much different. This is that freaking good. Let me take the camera so I can show you exactly what I'm seeing. I mean, look at that. That is phenomenal. I'm telling you guys, these like Chinese off-brand companies keep getting better and better. And this thing, for that price point, 600 bucks, seems like it's gonna be dang good. But again, this is just initial impressions. So I will be doing the full review coming in a few days. The mini LED-ness does take a lot more testing. There's just so many more settings to combine to test everything, make sure everything works. But yeah, again, if you wanna check it out, Amazon links below. But this is Type-C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.